Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Got to say that the SNP government does like a good U-turn, doesn't it? It's U-turned on its climate change, abandoning that law, getting it changed so that they no longer have a legal obligation to meet these targets. It changed its attitude towards wood-burning logs. Of course, both of these were green policies. And having thrown the Greens out of government, they felt able to reverse the policies. Well, there seems to be another policy that we're reversing. They were committed, of course, to rent reforms and having rent caps and limits on how much it can raise by and other stick it to the landlord, ideas and policies. And now they're reversing the policy on that. Well, mostly. But it's a very welcome reverse. You see, under the threat of rent controls and rent caps, etc., a lot of people in Scotland found that their landlords were putting the rent up because they knew that once the rent control came in, they couldn't. And indeed, this threat of rent control caused rents in Scotland to rise faster than anywhere else in Britain. Notwithstanding the fact that rent control never works, it always fails. And the people who are damaged the most by rent controls, of course, are the tenants. But of course, no one ever wants to admit the truth. They want to sound virtuous. Oh, yes, rent control, yes, it's always for the tenants. And then wonder why there's no rental properties as landlords run to the hills. But the SNP will no longer be pursuing an outright ban on, an outright rent cap, rather. And it's going to be very much more restricted in its range. There will still be some controls, but not very much. But as we say, rent controls do nobody any good. Around 70 landlords are leaving the property market every month. Some only have one property, some have many. But it's a lot and it's cumulative. And eventually, of course, all these houses leaving the rental market means the laws of supply and demand push up the prices of those rental properties that are available. Num, num, num. This is what happens. And of course, it all comes together. You just have to ask the letting agencies. They say they're getting fewer and fewer rental properties coming onto the market, and yet the growing waiting list for rental properties is there. And of course, nobody's building. It's not as though, social houses are being built, because they're not. Humza Yousaf cut 200 million from the social housing fund, and the builders don't want to build them because they don't make any money because of all the controls put in, And again, it's the micromanagement of the SNP getting involved in the market, in capitalism. Left-wing politics should leave capitalism alone and let capitalism get on with it. Then you would have lots of houses. Hey-ho, that's what these things are for and about. The left never learn, do they? And for all their yells, the SNP are very left. They're not quite Marxist, but given a chance, they could be. And so all these, increases in rent, disability, not having as many properties, a growing list of waiting people, people waiting for a council house. It's having the opposite of the desired effect of what the rent controls and all this was meant to be. It was meant to make sure that tenants have secure homes and a secure future. And they don't, because rent controls never work. And so the housing bill will go through. It does have plans for permanent rent control areas. However, they're linked to a percentage over inflation. So it will always be available to go up. And there won't be any of that, not putting the rent up between tenants. That's been abandoned as well. So it's a little sop to the landlords. Although with everything else happening and the fact that they'll have to fork out maybe £30,000 to £40,000 per house to put in heat pumps in 2 years' time, it's going to be a rough ride. So, if you rent your property, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble very, very soon, as everybody who owns a rental property dumps it. I wonder how that will affect Patrick Harvey. Hey-ho. Thanks very much. Bye.